Today, I want to talk to you about my failure. I failed. I failed, and that's totally okay. And I said, you know what? This is a perfect opportunity to dig a little bit deeper into failure for teens and how they can actually embrace failure. I did a video a while ago about the fear of failure, and that's great, and that's kind of the first step of why students are so stuck, because they don't want to fail. But what happens when they do? How do we actually work them through this process? For me, I used to be an outside sales rep when I was working in a digital marketing company already quite a few years ago, and I would face failure every single day, every day. If it was trying to book a meeting, if it was trying to get in front of a decision maker, if it was trying to actually sell a package, whatever it was, I was always failing. If you look at golf, the ratio of failure to success in that sport is so high. I don't know why anybody does it. I don't know why anybody plays golf. But my point is that failure is all around us. And for me, as my job as a youth speaker, as a youth coach, as in a way an educator, I'm also faced with failure. There's a part of my business that is selling my programs to actually go into schools and speak with students. That is at a cost, whether even if I do it for free, it's still at a cost to the school to then trust me as a professional to come in and actually inspire and educate these students. It takes manpower on the district and the school's job. And, obviously, if I most likely am charging, usually, it costs money. So part of my job is to sell in a way and market my services. And I just failed. So I had a school that went with a totally different direction. They're having a company that does pre-recorded like SEL programs instead of having someone come in. So I said to myself, oh man, what did I do wrong? What's my problem? Why am I not as good? And then I started really thinking about it. Well, I didn't probably get as much information from the decision maker as I should have. That's kind of part of learning how to sell. And number two, there is a million different things that could be happening. One, it could be a budget issue. Two, it could be a manpower issue where they can't actually, or don't want to have a huge assembly pull-out situation. They want to have, maybe these videos shown in class or something. Maybe they wanted some type of instruction and some type of curriculum or book or guide to go with it. And that's another thing that I've definitely been thinking about. Wink, wink. So either way, I said this is a perfect opportunity to talk about failure. So the famous Thomas Edison quote/story is, how many times did it take Thomas Edison to invent the light bulb? Well, he took 999 times to figure out how to not create a light bulb. I don't even know if any of that's right, but that's the whole kind of quote/theory that we talk about, right? Because every time he failed at creating a light bulb, he would look at this and say, okay, that doesn't work. I'm that one step closer to success. Now, many other people on 999th time might say, forget it. I give up. I'm done. Because clearly it has taken me 999 times to see what a failure I am. Why did I even go after two and keep going after two or three? I should have just given up then. I'm done. I'm giving up. So the way we, and as students, the way we embrace failure has a lot to do with the mindset. Either this is one step closer to your success, or this is another tick on the belt to say, I am a failure. Did you see how I language that? I am a failure. So it's another way of languaging it. Either you have failed at what you're trying to do, or you are a failure. Big difference, right? So, and we know as teachers, our students are nothing. There's no such thing as a failure. It's just something they haven't figured out yet, and they have to keep going until they've tried. And this is one of the biggest things I've learned as somebody who embraces failure so much in their life, is that it is never failure until you actually give up. It is never failure until you actually stop trying, because that is completely ceases all other opportunities to find the success. So yeah, then you've actually failed. If you keep trying and saying, I will just never stop, you definitely will figure it out, whatever that may be. If it's a light bulb, or if it's getting into college, or whether it's passing that class or majoring in that thing, or just, finding the love of your life, whatever, you're going to do it. You just can't ever stop. So number one is the mindset. Number two is some of the things that happen actually once we fail. One of the biggest things that comes with failure is clarity. So for instance, when I used to be a skater, skater boy, I'm dating myself by saying that. I used to inline skate, so like rollerblades, but like on the ramps and the half pipes and all that stuff with the skateboarders and the BMX bikers. Cool. And if I was trying to figure out a trick, I remember that I was too young and I had no guidance, because that's a very individualistic sport where you don't have a coach or a mentor trying to guide you, or anybody walking you through that. So I remember I really had very little clarity as to why I couldn't pull off certain tricks. And I would just kind of keep trying it and keep trying it and keep trying it. And through that, even just having no guidance, through that experience of keep trying and keep trying, there were little teeny nuances that would come about, right? For instance, even when I think specifically about one night when I actually was skateboarding, I was in 5th grade, I'll never forget it. And I was out in front of my house and I was trying to learn to do a kickflip. And this is when the board, you kind of pop an ollie and the board rotates 360 degrees and you land back on the board. And there was, someone taught me kind of how to do it by pushing off with my toe, kicking out, and then pulling my leg back on, whatever, fine. And that kind of, it's that little bit of education kind of expedited the process, and I came really close. So the whole night, for probably about 2 hours straight, I just kept trying, and it was literally pitch black out. And my mom's like, are you done? Why don't you try again tomorrow? I'm like, no, I want to do it. I'm so close. And it was so close. And I eventually landed it. But either way, that process of doing it so many times showed this little bit of clarity about how that foot would kind of come off and having to swing back on the board. Either way, the pure repetition was a game changer in itself. But if you notice something, both of these examples, rollerblading, skateboarding, I didn't have that person to guide me, to show me and coach me, more importantly, not show me, coach me through this exploration process, through figuring out these tricks. That's where you come in. You can help your students actually figure out what is happening, why they're failing, but of course, coach them to have them figure out the reasons as to why, right? So when I was in 10th grade, Mr. Caruso, I remember my math teacher, he was great. He was a great coach, and he really helped me try to have myself figure out the answers, and figure out not only the answers, but figure out why I wasn't understanding the equation. And by him simply asking me questions was a huge an open moment of clarity for me to say, oh, okay, this is what I don't understand here. And that's maybe it, simply asking questions to gain your kids' clarity. Now, it might be a situation where you're in and you're working with your student and this kid has just set their bar way too high. And yes, eventually they might be able to, land that trick or get on that team or whatever. But their bar has been set way too high for their moment in time. And what they're going to do is they're going to have all these other micro successes along the way, but their ultimate goal is the only one that they're seeing if they're really determined. They won't be able to hit it for a very long time. And that, to some students, could be discouraging because they're not seeing the small successes. So what you as a coach or a guide or a teacher has to do to step in and say, hey, listen, yes, that's a great, off the 3 years down the road goal to have. But in the meantime, what we want to also do as along our way, we're not giving up on that. Along our way, we want to make sure we celebrate this win and this win and this success and this success, so we don't think this whole road to goal number one is a failure. Lastly, what I would say is sometimes students simply need to see what failure and success looks like from outside of their box. So if for me, I was trying to land a trick on the skateboard or whatever, I keep saying or whatever, that's the example I'm using. If I was trying to land a trick on the skateboard, what might have helped me is not necessarily looking at other skateboarders and seeing them work at their tricks and working their abilities or whatever. There it is. But it might be beneficial for me to see something outside the box, but still relatable. Meaning, if I was, say, 12 at the time I'm talking about this, to see what another 12-year-old success and failure stories look like. That may take the part on your job to pull something up on YouTube and show that there's a 12-year-old out there who has been struggling with stuff that is way more serious than learning a kickflip on the skateboard. Maybe it's something like, they lost one of their parents, and then the other parent was an alcoholic, and they struggled through that. I mean, crazy intense things. But then they've persevered, and they had all these failures that taught them X, Y, and Z along the way, and they became even somewhat successful with those odds, let alone super successful. And oftentimes, if you're probably seeing this and looking at other things online, you know that there's this correlation between really hard resistance in somebody's life and someone having to persevere, that oftentimes develop grit a lot easier than others. And with that grit comes along with a harder work ethic and a more dedicated work ethic, for that matter, and they usually persist and become successful. So that's my 2 cents on failure. It is a learning tool. It is not something to avoid. It is not something to be ashamed of. It's not something to be upset. It is a learning tool to figure out how to do it better next time. And the biggest thing I can say for our kids is to reshape their mindset. It has nothing to do with you. It is just something that you cannot accomplish right now. Yet is the word. That's the magic word. So I hope this has been somewhat informative. I hope this has been able to shift your perspective as how you actually coach students through failure and embracing it. And if you like today's episode, then let me know by hitting like, hitting subscribe, and hitting the bell notification to be notified every time I release a new video. And if you like this video on failure, you may want to take a look at this one as well over here.